But hey, we got three cams.
Roll my sleeves up for continuity. Because
Continuity. Continuity.
So JT,
Mike D.
last night we watched a movie.
We watched
one that we've been wanting to see for a while. 1917.
Well, to be fair, I think you wanted to see it for a while.
I want to see it a lot more than you, but yeah.
You wanted to see it for a while, but I was excited to about the way it was shot.
Sure.
Like we talked in the first look, so I was excited in that regard.
1917 is why movies exist. Movies exist to tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
All of the soldiers that fought in World War I are dead. And their memories are gone. What is left is the stories that they've told to their children and to their grandchildren.
Right.
And Sam Mendes' grandfather told him this story, and it became a passion project for him. This was his first writing credit, and he wanted to direct this movie about a story that his grandfather told him. And so I felt that watching it.
Sure.
It was heartfelt. You could tell that he cared a lot about telling this story and telling it in the right way. So the big question, what'd you think of the one-shot take?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome. I mean, I liked the concept going in, but as I'm watching it, it was one of those things where I didn't realize how much time had gone by.
Yeah.
Right? I checked my phone, it felt like 20 minutes in, and it's been an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm immersed.
Right. I didn't even feel myself while I was watching this movie.
Because there's no breaks, right? It's the one shot. That's the field they're going for.
Yeah.
And you're involved. You have to be. You don't have the option not to be.
And they did it in a smart way. They didn't do it for the gimmick.
No.
There were parts where you could tell, okay, that's where they broke the shot.
Sure.
And
it wasn't one continuous shot through the whole
right.
From a filmmaking aspect. That would have been insane.
Yes.
That would have been very tough.
And you could tell some of the parts where they're okay, cut, and roll from the same spot.
If they're going behind something, or
we'll fix it in post or whatever. Yeah. But it's that made perfect sense to do with what they were aiming for.
Right.
Let's talk about one of my favorite aspects of this movie, the cinematography by Roger Deakins.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this movie was beautifully shot.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of ugly things that you see on the screen. You see dead people, dead horses, dead cows, dead rats, a dead dog. Lots of death and just disturbing images, but the way that it's shot is just breathtaking, and especially the use of lighting.
Yeah. There's
scenes that take place down in the trenches where there's no light except for their little leather flashlight thing,
or even exterior shots.
Exterior shots at night, especially.
When there's the flares or the fireworks.
There's the flares, there's bombs going off, there's buildings burning, and it's all this natural light that they've shot in, and it's just it's just awe-inspiring.
There's two scenes, and it's not a spoiler by any means, but there's two establishing shots. One in the beginning and one kind of near the end, and they sort of mirror each other. It's it's a camera that's lower level, peering through the top of some weeds into this landscape valley, painting type scenery that you sometimes see on the highway if you're in a rural area, and there's farmland that extends forever, and you just the sun setting, and it's wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
And he captures that beautifully to sort of bookend this movie that just is a visual masterpiece.
And it's it's the French countryside, so everything in far background is gorgeous.
Sure.
And then up front you have barbed wire and, you know, giant shells littering the landscape and just mud that they're like having
Just
to
the
trek
trials
through.
of war, right?
Yeah. And like the production design was amazing with just the fleshing out of just like all the soldiers in the trenches, all the background characters, and like there was like right before they had to make that first step into no man's land, there was like a sign that said like, in daylight keep your head down.
Yeah.
And like they had to go right past that sign and go up into daylight to like deliver this message. And it's just like, I don't know, everything that was going on around these two soldiers just built in with the story so well.
Yeah.
And like, just like the world was completely and fully realized. So our two leads who carried the film, George MacKay and Dean Charles Chapman, I think they did a great job, very believable in their roles as these two soldiers that had to deliver this all-important message.
Sure.
to save 1,600 men.
And a personal message for
the one that had the brother on
Right.
the front line. Yeah. The other actors, they just kind of dropped in, and I think they all did a good job with their parts.
Yeah, like bit roles, right?
Yeah, but it was almost like a cameo.
Sure.
And it was cool to see them in the movie, but it was really our two main guys that carried the emotional weight.
Which is kind of the nature of the beast with the one-shot take, right? You're going to be following the 1-2 throughout the entire movie.
Right.
And then people show up, kind of like a normal daily interaction. So, yeah, I mean, nothing against. Obviously, we would like to see more of the familiar faces, but when you make a film like this, that's kind of how it has to be.
Yeah, that with the story, you know, you can go on Wikipedia and read all about, you know, the numbers of casualties and the battles that were fought and the great generals and the great leaders of all the different countries that were involved in World War I. This movie puts you in a day of a soldier that's on the front line, like life or death. And there's been other movies that have, you know, followed a certain platoon or a certain regiment and like focused in on a certain number of characters. This one just like hones in, and with the one-shot take just puts you right next to these two guys as like their third man along for like, you know, this death-defying journey.
You know what I really like about the one-shot take that I guess I haven't really put into words yet is with war movies, and I think part of the reason I don't enjoy them as much as maybe you do is, for me, it's hard to sort of follow the story or the series of events that's happening, because you've got dialogue here from these people, dialogue here from these people. They don't necessarily mesh. You've got other, you know, parts of the story that may not be in the same time frame. With this, it's like you can't not follow along with
Right.
exactly what's going on at any given point in time. And it's like it doesn't need to be said, but it needs to be said, right? We need to be able to put that into words, like why it's so easy to follow.
Right.
And I think that's why it's so easy to get immersed in the story. It's like you have to know what's going on because it doesn't defer from that.
And you know exactly what they know. So
Yeah.
like when there's a gunshot coming at them, they don't know where that's coming from, and we don't know where that's coming from, because there's no establishing shot of like the whole city with like
Same point of
the
view.
enemy soldier, you know, shooting at them. We never see the enemy soldier until they encounter him.
Right.
So, JT, what would you give 1917?
For me, it's an interesting rating because you can't compare this to like a standard movie, right? Because of the way that it's shot and presented. It's kind of like a whole different beast.
Every movie has to be graded on its own terms,
Right.
I'd say.
So, in the sense of what they were trying to accomplish, and watchability is like the common thread for me in all these.
Sure.
Like ease of following, immersibility in the story, I'm gonna give it a 9.
All right.
Absolutely. And it being a visual guy, being a cinematographer at heart, like I can't not watch this and be like, it's near perfect.
Well, JT, I'm gonna disagree with you.
Oh.
Because I say this movie is perfect.
Oh.
I give it a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
This is my first 10 out of 10.
Mike's perfect score.
And I would say that it's very well earned. Between Mendes's direction and Deakins' cinematography and the strong performances, there's no faults with this movie that I could merit deducting a point for. Jam Movies gives 1917 a 9.5 jars.
9.5.
Our highest score yet.
Yeah. And I can see why it won the Golden Globe for, what, Best Picture?
Best drama, yeah.
Yeah.
And I predict, as I did in the first look, that it would win the Oscar. And I really think, although it did not clinch the most nominations, that it will take home the most Oscars.
Mike's calling it
on
out.
Oscar night.
Well before Oscar night.
Between the cinematography, between all the work behind the scenes, set design.
If it doesn't get
sound,
some sort of production cinematography award, I'll be shocked.
The only thing that it's not nominated for is acting, and that was because it was two more unknown actors in the leads.
Yeah.
Although I thought they did a great job, and the supporting cast was the best actors were in it for 2.5 minutes.
Sure.
So it didn't get any of the acting awards, but otherwise across the board, I mean, it's been nominated for almost every technical award, as well as...
I can see why.
Yeah.
They took a good concept and it's polished.
Yeah.
It's well done. So yeah, 9.5, strong 9.5. Yeah.
So who would you recommend go see 1917?
Oh man, just about anybody.
Yeah.
Just about anybody. Going into this, I would have been fans of war films, whatever, but that's not me. And a 9, you don't give a movie a 9 just to give it a 9, right?
Right.
So pretty much anybody, man. If you just want to if you want to see a movie that's shot in a way that's different than any other movie in the theater right now, and it's done about as well as it can be done from somebody who has a visual mind of a really good cinematographer, and you want to see some gorgeous shots and a gorgeous landscape and a story that's easy to follow.
Yeah.
And in a genre that's typically not easy to follow. Yeah.
I would say everybody go see this film.
Sure.
Except for if you are squeamish or really frightened by images of gore, because this movie doesn't shy away from showing the horrors of war, which is good.
It shouldn't filter it.
Exactly.
Keep it real.
So, if you don't want to see those images, if it's going to be too much for you, stay away. But otherwise, go see 1917, and I will add, go see 1917 in the theater.
Oh yeah.
Because it is a completely immersive experience, and the best way to do that would be in front of a giant screen. Do it late at night so there's not a bunch of people crumpling candy wrappers and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
just get absolutely lost in this movie because
it's one of those movies that if you did watch it at home, it would not do it justice.
Right.
And I can't say that for a lot of movies.
So go see it.
Watch it.
With that, let's throw up spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
The first thing I want to bring up is about the story itself. It feels like Sam Mendes took all of his grandfather's stories and built them into one movie. So he took all these different things that his grandfather told him and put it into one day in the life of a soldier.
Which I think is the right way to do it.
Yeah, because there's so many extraordinary things that happen in the course of this day that's in the movie, and it's taking all of combining all the old war stories and putting it into a narrative where we can absorb it all in one take, right?
Yeah.
So there's one thing that I learned about 1917, and that's never trust a German.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because...
Well, that was a foolish move going in.
Right. But... So a plane crashes into a barn. They witness it.
The big scene in the trailer, right? When you
Yes.
see the plane coming toward the building.
And that is a German pilot who is burning alive in his plane that has crashed. And they go through the effort to rescue this guy from his burning plane. And our main character, George MacKay, says we should put him out of his misery.
Yeah.
And Dean Charles Chapman's character says, no, bring him some water. Like, let's show this guy some kindness.
Which is where you lose me.
And he goes to get him water, turns around, and his friend is stabbed in the stomach, bleeds out, and dies in front of him. The other one is he goes up and covers that guy's mouth in the town.
Oh, yeah.
And his mission is to save 1,600 people. It's not to kill a single German soldier. So he would have been totally fine just saying shh and like going on his way.
But after what they saw, like the fact that he even gave him the chance to like shut the hell up. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. So the guy
fool me once, shame on him. Yeah.
So the guy tries to attack him, and luckily he's able to get the upper hand.
Yeah.
And choke this guy
Chokes
out.
the guy out, and then basically hauls ass out of there. Yeah.
But yeah,
because the other dude's pulling a whiskey Josh, and he's too wasted to notice.
It's just like, you know, in war, there's no compassion for the enemy. You just
especially Germans. Come on, man.
Yeah, right.
Like going back to the plane crash, right? I just thought it was almost humorous because you don't think of like the planes back then, right? They're basically like balsa wood and canvas, right? So the planes are dogfighting. And it's basically like toy planes and guys like shooting actual guns at the other person's plane.
Yeah.
And the one starts to crash, and it's coming in like you have this big cinematic scene where they're running and this giant plane's on fire coming in, and you're expecting like this freight train of destruction. Like if a normal plane hits the ground, it's this like path of chaos, and this thing just kind of hits and like stops, and it's just like on fire. Like it wasn't this big dramatic explosion, and I was like, it's funny, but it's probably pretty accurate, right? Because these planes are really light and they're tiny, and it seemed like a toy, like hitting the ground. And
yeah,
I don't know. I thought it was funny.
I feel like a lot of the shots were very realistic with how they were depicted. It felt very grounded in reality, and I mean, there's so many memorable shots with like him running across, you know, in front of the bunker.
Oh yeah, where he's running, everybody's running out. Yeah. That first wave of people.
And just like, there's so many shots like that that are just so like iconic that'll stick with me.
Sure.
So it's revealed at the end that he has a family.
Yeah.
And so like, I was secretly hoping that he'd like go back with the French girl and like save the baby, and like that would be a happily ever after. But you realize the entire reason that he's trying to stay alive is so that he can go back to his family.
Sure.
And like, nothing else matters to him because he like sold the medal for some wine. Yeah. And like, he just wants to get home. And
which the one guy was ribbing him about, but I mean, at the end of the day, I might have done the same thing.
Right, right. And the movie's bookended by him sleeping against a tree at the beginning, and he's woken up by his friend to go take care of this mission. And at the end of the film,
that kind of ties back to the shots I was talking about, right?
Yes. And so it just shows like this movie is the day in the life of the soldier.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
For sure.
And like every day it's just surviving. So with that, let's transition into our comment question.
I was gonna say, guess what time it is, baby?
Which I did not warn you about, so hopefully you can come up with something quick.
This is literally off the cuff, so raw. Let's go.
So, for the comment question, what has been one of your favorite roles played by someone as a modern soldier? So, when I say modern soldier, I mean someone that shoots a gun, not someone that swings a sword around, because that just opens up the floodgates to like way too many options.
I'll defer to you, Mike, on this one.
So one of my favorite soldiers was Private Jackson in Saving Private Ryan, played by Barry Pepper.
Okay.
He's the sniper of the group, and he's just like an all-around badass, and just like gets the job done, and always has an eye out for his buddies.
I'm going to refer back to a previous pick as a potential lazy choice here, but
Okay.
out of like all of the war-based movies that I've seen, which is very few, probably my favorite would be American Sniper. So I would say BC and Bradley Cooper, my man.
Chris Kyle,
Yep.
another sniper, right?
Yeah. Yep. So, well done movie, good told story, emotional, hit you in the feels.
And it focused more on his character,
Yeah.
whereas
Well
Saving Private
acted.
Ryan was more of an ensemble.
Right. Cool.
Well, tell us who your favorite modern day soldier in a movie is in the comments. And what else, JT?
That's it, baby.
Like,
Subscribe. Comment.
We've got other reviews on our channel. We'd love for you to check them out. We're just getting started, so hopefully there's many more to come, and we'd love to have you along the way. And that'll be it. Have a good night. Until next time.
That's how the cookie crumbles.